I will start in 2000, when we created the first Bulgarian scheme. If you remember, this scheme was called Borica. This scheme was part from the first European scheme, Eurocard. Does anybody remember Eurocard? That Europe tried at that time to create the European scheme, and then this European scheme has failed. And a few years after, our scheme Borica, if you remember the card of Borica, has failed as well. So, at that time, we didn't have enough knowledge, we didn't have a business knowledge. Even Europe wasn't ready at that time to support schemes like us with European standard in order to survive. At that time, we didn't have independent technology on the POS terminal. We were dependent. And in one moment, by this dependence, somebody say, switch off. You are here. You cannot continue. And then, in 2014, our board, our shareholders, decided to reopen the scheme again. And we started the new scheme with B-Card and Blink, the new product. But what is essential, we were supported by European standards. This is the EMVCO, contactless, contact and contactless, and as well the CPay standard. CPay standard we supported as well. And today I can say that we have fully independent technology on a point of interaction. What does it mean? We can accept from tomorrow every scheme compatible with this standard. We can accept Spain, we can accept Germany, we can accept France, we can accept all the countries that are using CPay standard. The second, intellectual property is in our hands. What does it mean, our hands? All the Bulgarian community. They are deciding the standard of the product and services. The second thing, this is SEPA Instant. SEPA Instant is a new model of the future. This is a settlement tool every country can rely on. The settlement tool which has an advantage, and this is a faster time of transaction processing. On an instant payment rails, we spoke already for account to account. So, since 1st of January, we are expecting the Euro adoption. We have our local products, B-Card and Blink. They are developing very fast. We have with B-Card our own network, fully independent. We have with Blink, since 2 years, we had 1,100,000 customers registered already. We are about to start the e-commerce next year. We are about to start donation. And of course, in our plans are to go to the POS terminal. So we are ready, after Euro adoption, to integrate and to bring value to the customer with the European access. We want to propose to our customers not only local services, but we want new reachability in Europe. So I want to invite two of my guests, and we are going to discuss who is going to change the world of payments. Do we need sovereign ability? There are two alternative decisions in Europe. EuroPay and Vero. And we, as a scheme, B-Card Blink, want to integrate. And please hear very carefully, because we are going to know and understand how we are going to integrate with these decisions. Okay, first on stage, Fernando Rodriguez, the Deputy Director of Bizum, Hi, Fernando. And representing EuroPA and EPI, the new market head and leader, Pьотр Pietrzak. Piotr, welcome on stage. So please. So we are going to discuss a little bit, but starting from Fernando. Could you elaborate more for Bizum? Bizum is the Spain instant payment mobile service. So what are the KPIs? What are the lesson learned? And what's more, what is the connection of Bizum to the EuroPA?
Okay. Thank you, Stoilka. Good afternoon, everybody. We'll try to keep it brief so all of us can have lunch right away. So coming back to your question, indeed, we are the equivalent to Blink in Spain. So the banks decided 10 years ago to create a value-added service on top of instant payments. Instant payments is going to be one of the key elements for European sovereignty in the coming years. So basically, it was a similar roadmap as Blink. So the banks decided to launch the service. Instead of developing the service within an existing company, they decided to create a new company. That's the only difference. But in the end, what we try to manage is to deliver a service embedded into the banking apps. So that's the way we ensure that the confidence, the trust, and everything behind the customers that's giving the confidence that whenever they send the money, wherever they send the money, it's going to be safe. And we are using tips as an enabler. In the end, we think instant payments is going to be the account to account. I would love to have part of the discussion, 2 panels before, where we're discussing account to account versus cards. I think it's true that account to account is a very young scheme, so we still need to develop many things, but we are on the right path. And coming back to the lessons learned, it's true that you're mentioning that in the end, what we're trying to create is a new habit for customers. So in the end, we are providing a better user experience. We understand that it's better because in the end, we link the phone number to the account number. So linking the phone number, it enables a better user experience, so you can send money just using the agenda, you can buy online just using your own phone number to pay, and eventually we will get to the POS as well. But when it comes to the benefits or to the lessons learned, it's true that we need to propose something that will convince the customers to just change the habit and start using this. So P2P was the anchor use case, so we're starting from there, developing from there, e-commerce then, and then hopefully next year point of sale. And in the end, what we think it's key is cooperation, as you mentioned before. So as we envision this is that we need to foster this type of cooperation at our level. It was the whole Spanish community back in the service from the very beginning. And today with EuroPA, with the European Payments Alliance, what we're trying to do is, since there were already existing domestic solutions that were successful in their domestic markets, why not trying to also connect the dots and build these bridges among all these solutions. So that's why we're starting also with Portugal and Andorra. Since this summer, it's already live. So 50 million users are already interconnected and sending money to each other. So in Spain, we have 30 million users registered in Bizum. So we're increasing the reachability of the network that we have created in Spain just with this cooperation with Portugal and Andorra. And building from not from scratch, but in the end, reusing the infrastructure that was already developed for the Spanish market. So in the end, we're trying to reuse many of the things that the banks need to comply in order to meet the instant payment regulation, for example. So the Spanish community decided to not just comply with the regulation, but build on top of that a service like Bizum. And I think in the end, what we have achieved is that convincing the customer that these services are very convenient, that the user experience is really good. And now with the other use cases and increasing the reachability, also hope with EPI, with Wiro as well, we can increase the pan-European reach of our networks and ensure that customers will have the same user experience paying at home that when we travel.
Yes, okay. Piotr, could you explain us what is Vero and how many countries have access to Vero?
Sure. First of all, thank you for invitation. And sorry for crashing your lunch a bit. We are also hungry with Fernando, so we are on the same boat. But let's make it the most out of it. So as Fernando used a comparison, I will do the same because I think it's the easiest way to explain new things. You can think about Vero like linked, but it's accepted in more than one country. And it's exactly at the same level in terms of the product right now as we speak, because it's a P2P service live in Germany, France, and Belgium. So we are covering 3 markets. And in 2026, in the next year, we are going live in Netherlands and Luxembourg. So we will cover quite big part of Western Europe already. It's P2P, so we can send money, request money. You can pay to small merchants, which is called P2Pro. They don't need to have a POS terminal. They can accept the payments, split the bill, everything what you can imagine about P2P. What makes it different is that it's a one system. It's a one core system. It's a one rule book and one brand. So it doesn't matter if it's a bank in Germany, France, Belgium, as a matter of fact, any other market that you can think of. They use exactly the same rules and the same set of APIs to connect. So by saying that, I want to say that it's very scalable from the beginning. It's not the company that was set up firstly locally and then after a couple of years decided to go abroad. It's the blueprint for Wero. It's pan-European, let's say so. And of course, many people say that, okay, we had those kind of initiatives before. Most of them, they ended up on the PowerPoint slide. So we are live. After 1 year, we are close to 50 million enrolled users, which is already something only for the P2P service. And of course, the question is where we can go next from it. And the next steps, of course, this year we are launching e-commerce in Germany, which is extremely important because German banks had this history of fighting back international card scheme and very popular American payment solution in Germany. So there is a big hopes for launching successfully in Germany this year and also Belgium. And then, of course, similarly to Bizum, holy grail of payments and independence, of course, it's in-store payments. So create something that could really compete with international card schemes, but also big tech companies who are coming to us from overseas.
So you together have a wide reachability. You mentioned 50 million. You mentioned another 50 million in different countries. You are in Benelux, you in Spain, Portugal. I heard for Italy. So even we are interested to have this reachability and connect to both decision if it's possible, and this will be next year because we want reachability for our Blink service. According to your experience, how we are going to the point of interaction? Let's take now the POS for cards. What do you need for this?
In the end, it's true that we're witnessing a shift in the merchants' views on alternative payment methods. They are trying to shift a huge chunk of the volumes to this type of account-to-account solution. So that's where we're experiencing, and we see that they are demanding this. So when it comes to building this solution for a cross-border approach, what we're trying to do is what it worked in Spain, why it won't work on other markets. So we're trying to find these common elements, as you're saying, right? So at the point of sale, we see that, for example, in Spain, NFC is something that is mandatory in order to be a success. So we understand that in some other markets, QR might be also good, but as we see is that in the end, NFC is going to be present in all the terminals in Europe. Maybe QR could be useful for a very specific type of transactions, but as we see is that NFC it's going to be the end game for the whole European payment. So that's the approach that we are following in order to build this merchant acceptance also for the European in the rest of the markets. And regarding other type of considerations, so in the two panels before, they were discussing about many elements regarding business model, disputes. So as Piotr was saying, in the end, what we are trying to build is whatever is missing in the account-to-account sphere, we are trying to cope with that based on the rule book that we've developed. So we are very aligned with whatever was built in the car business. So in the end, we're trying to profit in from that. So the experience that many of the payment experts had with cards, we're trying to leverage that into the account to account. So the rule book covers the disputes. For example, in Bizum we have disputes. So in case you have any problems, regardless it's purely based on account to account, you can initiate a dispute because maybe the merchant didn't deliver the service. So you can do that. And also the business model, I think it's competitive. So otherwise our banks would have not allowed us to launch this type of services to merchants because they need to understand this is a sustainable and profitable business model. So the business model is also profitable. It's not based on an interchange fee. It's a separate, it's a totally different business model. So in the end, we understand that this type of it should be more economic for merchants because we understand that otherwise it's going to be really tough for merchants to add this type of payment methods. But in the end, we think that banks are selling this on a very competitive way and they are having a high return, even higher than the one that they have with the existing international credit schemes. So this is changing. So we have on one side the merchants that are willing to embrace this type of new payment methods, consumers that find these payment methods are more convenient. So paying just with the phone number at the commerce is going to be very disruptional for many markets, but it's what we've been working in Spain for many years. So that's also the approach that we are looking into with this interoperability approach. So the phone number as a customer, it would be also a very good way to ensure that we can offer this on a pan-European level. It's true that again for the e-commerce QR could be a good way, but in the end what we've witnessed is that the phone number is key for our consumers to pay because they don't need any to type any sensitive data, they don't need to grab the wallet, so it's just very easy. They get a request to pay notification into their banking app and they pay the same way that they pay with other payment methods, but they don't need to type sensitive data like the car number details and so that's how we're building our focus. So what it works in Spain and not only Spain but in other markets, we're finding these common elements and we're trying to build from there.
Okay, great. So we are almost close to the POS terminal, and what I see that these countries like Germany, France, and Belgium, they are very fast in implementation of CPACE kernel. Spain also, we are also compatible. Does it mean that you are planning to go this way to the POS terminal with Vero?
The short answer is yes, exactly. Adding to what Fernando already said, I'm happy that we are starting from the POS use case because it's the most complex one among all of them that you can imagine of. P2P from the technical perspective is easy, and I believe that's why interoperability started from that, because that's not rocket science from the technical perspective, right? Secondly, e-commerce, it's easy because there's already a variety of different payment methods online. Each market you will identify top 5, maybe top 10, the largest acquirers. It's purely software-based acceptance network, right? In case of POS terminals, something that we face, and it's applicable almost to all, with exception of Borica and a couple of cases in Europe, is what international card schemes, together of course with the big technological companies, did over the years. What they did, they created a tremendous well-working acceptance network at the POS terminal. And what happened next was about how contactless spread, mostly thanks to those small things that we have in our pockets, right? So I think they did a great job, those big guys from the Silicon Valley, to teach us how to pay very easily in the store. Tap and go, right? There's really no more convenient way to pay in the store. Even those big retailers who tried in the States to make this kind of payment that you go inside the store, you go outside and it's paid, it didn't work out because you are paying. People like to have a feeling when the payment happens. And the absolute minimum is at least one click that I control when the money is going out from my account, right? So there's no better experience at the POS terminal. And the point is here to really address a really nice user experience at the POS at in-store, you need to use the contactless, right? And what Fernando said, QR code might be good in some of the markets where they're used to it, or in some particular use cases, which we identify as, for example, self-checkout. you go to the big grocery store, you have time, you scan all the products you are buying, and you scan the code, right? Because you have time for that. Or you go to your favorite coffee chain and you scan the QR code and automatically you pay and also collect the points, right? Those couple of, but that's not the mass scale in the end of the day. You want to go to your favorite store and tap and go, right? So there are a couple of ways how to do it. First of all, those countries who stick to the local card scheme, Borica and B-Card is a great example, but it's also a local card in Germany, Girocard, or Carte Bancaire in France with their own acceptance network. So you can still create a contactless experience with Wero, or in future with Blink at POS, where you can really tap your phone on the POS terminal and all the transaction, all the settlement goes without involvement of international card schemes. And I'm saying that because the problem starts when you are going to the markets where there's no alternative. There's no alternative contactless kernel in the POS terminal. You are very lucky that you have it. If you look outside Europe, in the Middle East, or in North Africa, they're learning on our mistakes because central banks are mandating open kernels at the POS terminals. Of course, everyone is welcome. Nobody is banning international card schemes from the market because they're also bringing the innovation. They bring new products and so on. They bring change. No question about that. We need that. It's more about opening this field for everyone, right? And of course, the counter argument is, okay, we didn't do it and now we are asking for help. Yes, it was mentioned in the previous panel. More than 60 years of development of international card scheme in Europe. Wero, Bizum will not change that over a couple of months. I doubt it will happen in 1 or 2 years. It will need time, but we need to have exactly the same playing field to do that. And it's possible in the countries where Wero is operating. Borica, it's a great example. The question is what you will do in other countries. So then you need to think about the fallback plan. You need to think about how to collaborate with international card schemes, because in the end of the day, you need to find a way how it's scalable across all the markets.
Okay, on behalf of our acquirers, I can say that our market is open for the decision like Wero and EuroPay and to be accepted in Bulgaria, because for us it's very important to have competition on the POS terminal and to have a European payment instrument in order to have transparency in pricing and regulation as well. So you are European alternative payment decisions, so you are somehow you're collecting different schemes. Let's say that in Europe we have the market is fragmented. We have over 10 local card scheme, and we have over 10 mobile solution based on instant payment, like Bizum, like Blink, like Blik in Poland, and so on. So, and in your case, you are standalone application, Wero, and all the users can upload and start using it. How you are going to plan to cooperate? Because recently you announced a cooperation between Wero and EuroPay.
Okay, so as I see no option but to cooperate in the end. So that's I think that's the main message here. So very key comments that you raised earlier, like the standards. So in the end, we think that in order to build this sovereignty, we need some reliable standards for the whole Europe. So CPAs, I think that in the end could be the best way to go for the whole European market. It's already there, so there are many markets that they have already developed this acceptance, and we even considering this. So in order to build this interoperability with other markets in Europe, why not choosing this standard so we can benefit from that? In the end, what we're seeing is that there are some markets in Europe that they are very mature in terms of these mobile solutions that are present in the market, because they are cashless society, and we see that they are combining forces. So in the case of Denmark and Norway, they decided to create a new company, so combining both solutions that were present. So I think that in the end, this type of convergence will arrive to the rest of the European countries. But in the first stages, I think we should find these common elements, these cooperation, so we can build something together and find these agreements that in the end we need to develop first in order to achieve this convergence. That maybe it comes in the future, maybe not, but I think we should put this first stone, just building this cooperation with other markets. In the end, we understand the instant payments is going to be the settlement layer for the whole Europe. We already tried this with Andorra. It's a very small region up north in Spain, but in the three banks on this region, instead of creating a new solution, they decided to join Bizum. So in the end, they decided to perform this operation, and what we're witnessing is that 40% of the transactions over there, they're cross-border. So they are really benefiting from these people moving in and out from the country and benefiting from the cross-border solution. So in the end, we think that we need also to take into account that markets that still, you mentioned 10 domestic card scheme, more than 10 mobile payment solutions around Europe, but still there are some markets that they don't have anything because maybe they are very card-reliant, card-dependent markets because they didn't have enough time to develop a solution. So we need to think also in these countries when it comes to the interoperability. So when we build this open framework, so we understand that these countries may choose one of the existing solutions they join, or maybe they decided to create one of their own. And maybe convincing that in the end, if they build one of their own, they should be compatible with the existing solution, with the existing framework for interoperability. So I think that's the approach, helping other communities that still haven't made a decision yet, because it's going to happen. They need to make a decision because it's not only a business matter. I think it's a political matter. So sovereignty is key. And as I mentioned earlier, the standards that you've been doing a great work with CPACE, so we can benefit from this in order to ensure that this interoperability is going to happen.
Okay. Piotr.
To add to what Fernando already said, which I agree, to set the expectation right, just to repeat in other words, this is very difficult because those very successful local payment schemes, they were built over more than 10 years in total isolation from each other. Those people know each other, but technically they were built in total isolation. And now we are trying together with Europe to find a common denominator for them, which is very difficult. Some of the local schemes are registered schemes. Some of them are only local systems, which makes a difference per country in the regulation. Some of them are four corners. Some of them are three corners. Some of them are really based on the card rails. Some of them are purely account to account. They are beautifully different, if I like to use this word, right? So putting them together, it's not only on the technological level, it's on the consumer protections that were mentioned, right? When I'm paying with Bizum in Poland or in Portugal, who is taking care of that? What kind of transaction the acquirer or merchant sees? It's a multi-dimensional project, I would say, and it might sound silly, but I'm happy that it's the openness to even talk about it is there, because that's already a huge thing. We had this discussion yesterday that within all this interoperability and everything what we do in Europe, not only with payment, but when you zoom out on European Union, there's one factor that it's, I believe, not discussed enough. It's a human factor. In the end of the day, technologically, now we can do everything what we dream of. It's a matter of time. It's a human factor. It's going beyond your local interest. It's really to act as European Union, as 27 countries together, and we see how it works, right? Not always perfect. And with payments, with all the investment that has been done in Bizum in Spain, I was previously working also for a local scheme, and I totally understand the argument to keep a local scheme in place. But then you go into all the scalability, all the economies of scale, this thing of being united within the payments. That's a difficult part in the end of the day, I would say. And there was an example of UPI in India, which it's hard to bring to the European ground because it's very different. Because there the penetration of cards, it's super limited. Currently also it's below 10%. China is a little bit different, but also international card schemes are below 10%. Mostly it's Union Pay, the local card. So I am very far from comparing what happened in those countries with what we have in Europe, because we are fighting against a totally different competition, totally. And with UPI, I think it's important to say that it really, really skyrocketed when the government back in November 2016 demonetized small notes. It was, I think, 500 rupees and 1,000 rupees. And from one day to another day, people didn't know they didn't have means to pay for bread. And then really the mobile payments grew. Go and check the statistics from UPI in India. It skyrocketed in 1 month, and then it continued in November 2016. And referring to one common standard that Fernando said, fun fact, UPI was set up a couple of months before the demonetization. But before that, they had a very popular local account-to-account wallets, top-up wallets, mostly Paytm and Phone Fee, with their own QR standards. And what UPI did, it unified, made one standard for all. And now, funnily enough, the same standard is used by the local players, Phone Fee and Paytm, but also, as a matter of fact, by Google Pay. So I think this is something where Europe should go. And still, India has several different wallets, but they use exactly the same rails. And I think this is, if we had to pick up one thing, one lesson from India, taking into account that it's a very different day and night markets and environment, it's this. It's really some kind of common denominator across all of them. And still, those wallets fight with each other for the same customer and so on and so on, but they are unified across the board.
Okay, I will continue the question because in many markets, the big giant, the fintech, are strong competitors of the bank and the domestic scheme. Even here in Bulgaria, the banks are implementing very fast the P2P because they are facing competition from one of the big giant. And you recently announced the cooperation with this big fintech. Do you see that this is a strategic evolution, or maybe the banks are considering like a threat?
Good question. And for those who don't know, it's about Revolut. Revolut joined EP scheme a couple of months ago, and they are offering Wiro in all 3 our markets, meaning Germany, France, and Belgium. So people don't need to ask on Sunday morning, do you have Revolut to give you back? They can send money instantly using the Sparkasse app in Germany or another Credit Agricole app in France to Revolut user and vice versa, which is great. And I think that in some of the countries, if we will take example of Revolut, but also similar players, in some of the markets, they are not anymore treated as startups or even fintechs. Because if we had this discussion with Fernando, the customer base, it's already equal to the top banks in the country. From country where I am from Poland, Revolut already has exactly the same number of customers as the 4th largest bank. It's when you saw analysis a couple of years ago, you had a table of the most big banks by the number of customers, and Revolut was always on the side or other guys. Now it's included. And I think we are on the brink when those who are not treating them yet as a full-fledged banks, they will, because they are going into credit, they are going into mortgage products. So why you should treat them differently, right? And with all the banking licenses and everything, I think it's not a threat. I like to say that it's motivating high street banks that you can make it differently, right? Because right now, before Revolut gain a banking license, the counter argument was they are not playing with the same rules, right? So they can do whatever they want, they can bend a bit the rules, but now they cannot, right? Because it's exactly the same rules are applying to Revolut and to the banks. So saying that, the great example is the banks are asking how long it takes to integrate Wiro in their mobile banking app. Just a disclaimer, we have a standalone app, but also integration within the mobile banking apps. And the answer is, of course, it depends. But now with Revolut, we have a great answer. Yes, in the best case, it takes only 2 months because Revolut did that in 2 months. And so you should do exactly the same, right? So that's the benchmark. It doesn't mean that they will do it in 2 months because there are different institutions, legacy systems, and so on. But it's a great benchmark. I think it's motivating the banks quite much.
Because you mentioned Revolut, Fernando, I know that Revolut is your member of Bizum. You know, so it's like a regular member of the scheme.
Yeah, so today where we are, we acknowledge that in the end, in order to be competitive in a very mature market like in Spain, Revolut did a great job because in the end they provide a really good user experience. When you travel abroad, you know have fees mostly. So in the end, what is happening in Spain that in order to get to grow more, they needed to offer Bizum as well. So that's what the main driver decision. So they need to be competitive in Spain. So they decided also to launch. Maybe it was the same case for AP as well. And what we are seeing is that many users are just switching to Revolut because in the end, the only thing that they was missing, because they already have mortgages, they already got everything in place, a card. So the only thing missing was Bizum. So right now, when they already have Bizum, they are using Revolut as the primary bank. So this is today what is happening in the banking industry. So this type of primary banking option is what the banks are fighting against. So Revolut is offering this type of experience. So payments today is becoming the first option for customers in order to get access to the payment to the banking app. So that's why so many customers are choosing Revolut as the primary option. And today they are setting the standards for many things. So even incumbent bank, that we've been in the market for many years already, they see Revolut as the standard to beat. So imagine this. So a huge bank with thousands of branches around Spain, they're seeing Revolut as the standard to beat in terms of user experience. I think does not make sense at all because there are totally different distribution models. But that's what it's coming to. So they are trying to build loyalty programs like Revolut did. They are trying to build travel plans. So Revolut offers. They're trying to build really easy user experience, but in the end they have totally different type of legacies. They have totally different type of customers. So in the end, many of these incumbent banks, they have larger customers on above 50 years old, for example.
So in Spain, Bizum is always the first priority.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's the last question.
I think
if
just,
you want
just
to
to
add
add on
something.
top of that, and we had also this discussion before. People still trust the banks. They have life savings in the banks because I think they were just longer on the market than Revolut. That's my theory, right? And Revolut is now 10 years old, and it will come probably. My son, your daughter, which are in the kindergarten, I think they might use Revolut instead of the regular bank, and that's the argument of one of my colleagues who made an research on which bank account in Poland is best for the teenagers, and she's working in the bank. So she made an Excel file where her son, 16 years old son, should open an account, and she picked up one bank and said, okay, it was before COVID, it was still manual, you need to go to the branch. He went to the branch, came back home, and she said, okay, I'm super happy you did it independently, you opened a bank account, you did a big step towards your adult life. And she saw that it's a different bank. And she asked him, why you did that? I asked you to do this one. I said, yeah, this one was closer. He didn't care. So now if he can have exactly the same experience in Revolut, he will not go anywhere from home. He will just open an account, probably his first account in Revolut, and perhaps maybe don't have any need to open in the regular bank.
Okay, let's see. But one last question about the future, because we have instant payment, we have digital euro. What is your prediction? Who will be the first to the point of interaction, and which method will be the European payment instrument, or both combined?
I think it's a safe bet here. I'd say instant payments because in the end they've been in the market for many years already. not so many, but many more years than the digital euro. I mean, digital euro is supposed to be live around 2030s. We don't know yet. So I try to stay with instant payments. It's true that still we need to develop many things, and I understand today's regulation is coming to level the playing field. So instant payment regulation foresees that all PSPs in Europe, they are connected to that. Also with PSD3, we expect to be competitive with card for many payment plans. So I think that in the end, maybe you had asked me about stable coins. Maybe I thought it twice, but I think the digital euro will come. But for the majority of the use cases, people will stay with instant payments or cards, and let's see if digital euro can provide a better user experience that we have today.
I believe that it's on one side it's an easy question because instant payments are already here, and you have a local players who are already offering in-store instant payments. And putting aside is the contactless QR code, whatever, the payment is already there. It's a reality. So I like to compare apples with apples. And when we try to compare, is it Euro, is it Bizum, or interoperability with digital euro, it's my daily task with prospects. How you compare it? And I agree with Fernando, digital euro in some kind of form will come, right? Too much was invested already in that to abandon it, full stop. But then the question is, imagine a bank who would like to join some kind of alternative to international card schemes, right? And there's this digital euro on the horizon. And then on one day I'm coming to him and another day Fernando. Usually this is how it works. And then how you compare, you can take Bizum business case, you can take Euro business case, you can take our pricings, and you can create a physical in digital Excel and see how it impacts your profitability in the end of the day, how it impacts your user. And then I am asking those prospects, do the same for digital euro. Then that conversation stops, because that's something that, yes, definitely it's coming, but it's not in this shape to be compared. The only thing that we know that it will take time to deliver, instant payments are already here, and it will take time to build the acceptance network, to build the awareness, and we know very well, and I know it from my former employer in Poland, Fernando knows, that it takes years, from 5 maybe to 10 years to create the awareness per one market. So now they know already, and those markets who are really into digital euro, they started to say, okay, maybe we should consider some kind of alternative. They don't question digital euro in general. They know that it will come in some kind of shape someday, but they need to act now. And that's a very big difference, and I think a good signal for us, for the local schemes like B-Card and Blink, for Bizum, for the interoperability, for Euro, for the whole Europe. So I think it's digital euro, it's coming in some kind of form, but everyone agrees that they need to act right now, and we are both ready for that.
Thank you very much for this discussion, and it shows that European payment future will be defined not just by technology, will be defined by close cooperation. And I want to finish with our state Bulgarian motto that united makes us strong. This year we are celebrating 140 years since we are united as a country. Mm-hmm. So we know, and this motto is written on our parliament, and we know that united we are strong, but when we are separated we are weak. So this is the wish to be together and continue working on European interoperability.
Looking forward
Thank
to
you
that.
very much.
Thank you. Thank you.